Amid decreasing voter turnout and growing skepticism about bureaucrats in Brussels, here's a quick crash course on what the European Parliament actually does and why it's important. For one, after India, the EU is the world's second biggest democratic electorate on Earth. Let's follow Giulia. She's one of Italy's 73 members of the European Parliament, or MEPs as they're known. The bulk of the European Parliament's work, including committee work, is done in Brussels, Belgium. The EU Parliament has over 20 committees, and these committees, like the Foreign Affairs Committee or Agriculture and Rural Development Committee, meet to discuss specific policy areas such as human rights or food safety. The European Parliament consists of 751 MEPs from the 28 member states of the European Union. MEPs are elected directly by the citizens of their own countries for 5-year terms. The number of seats each country has depends on its population. Germany, with 83 million people, is the EU's most populous country. So Germany has 96 seats in the European Parliament, and Malta, with a population under 500,000, has just 6. There are 8 main political groups in the European Parliament. Once these members get to Parliament, they're grouped by political affiliation, not by nationality. This means that instead of sitting with fellow politicians from back home, Giulia, who's a Green Party member, sits together with her new Green friends from around the EU. The EU Parliament plays an important role in lawmaking, the oversight of other institutions, and setting the EU budget. This affects domestic and international policy areas, from trade and privacy to climate change and arms control. This also means that it helps get goods like wine and pasta from Giulia's hometown to consumers abroad. Over the past 6 decades, the European Parliament has developed from a small body with limited authority to one of the largest and most influential legislatures in the world. Now, let's see how the legislative process works. The European Parliament works alongside the European Commission and the Council of the European Union to make laws. So ordinary legislative procedure is called co-decision since it requires input from all 3 institutions. But the Commission is the only EU institution able to propose legislation. Giulia sits on the Committee on Civil Liberties, Justice, and Home Affairs. The Commission gives her committee a legislative proposal on data protection. Giulia and her colleagues receive the proposal at the same time as the Council of the European Union, which consists of ministers from EU member states. Giulia's committee agrees on what they think the data protection proposal should look like as law. It's then revised and adopted in a plenary session, when all MEPs get together to deliberate and vote. If the Council of the European Union is satisfied with the Parliament's position, the legislative proposal is adopted and becomes law. If the Council of the European Union is not satisfied, the proposal can be amended and reread. Once the Parliament and Council agree on a legislative act, both sign it and it becomes law. The European Parliament translates the interests and the will of the EU's 500 million citizens into real policy. This means that by exercising their right to vote, Europeans have a definitive voice in one of history's most important democratic projects.